beautiful family. Recording a few videos today, some good energy around. It's 11:11. The date is 11:11. But this topic is heavy. That's why I'm choosing to do it now, whilst I'm in this good space. Spiritual warfare is a very real part of my life. And spiritual warfare is a very real aspect of the oppression of mankind. And many of us get caught up in the physical manifestations around us and try to combat it from there, but this is a war of vibration. This is the war of vibration. And this is, for millennia, the trick upon humanity is that they don't realize this. And so we become lured, possessed, misled, purely because we don't understand that it's a war of vibration. So spiritual warfare takes place mostly in the mind of man. But there is physicality to it. And it will nip at you, in my experience. So let me go through it. The fabric of consciousness is vibrational. And so if you see somebody getting angry and irate, they are creating a frequency, a vibration inside that fabric that will allow, or can allow, for certain forces, certain entities to come through. And I saw recently, to give an example, let's call it certain forces, but I'm going to get onto this because I've seen a species that I am very certain is oppressing mankind. I've seen them. It was one of those topics. It raises an eyebrow, but here we are. Before we came here one time, we were in the supermarket, and right in front of me, a load of boxes fell down. And the guy who knocked them down became irate and angry and started restacking them. He was a customer, very angrily. And Fritzi went to walk past, and I took hold of her hand and I said, "Don't walk through that." And she said, "Through what?" And I said, "Imagine the boxes had not fallen and merely there was a man in front of you in an alleyway just doing all these angry motions and actions. Would you want to walk by that energy?" She said, "No." And I said, "So let's take a detour. Let's not walk through this." And so it has to be understood. It has to be understood that these other dimensions require a certain vibration to come through and affect us. If someone is getting very angry and bitter and raging, something that you don't want around you can come through onto you. And likewise, if you can get into a very high vibration, a very open-hearted vibration, then something can come to you that you want, something that you need in your life. Now, sometimes that which comes through in the low vibration can be removed by persons in the higher vibration. It can be physically extracted. And I've witnessed this, and it's interesting that Jesus had to cast demons into swine that ran off the cliff. It was an example given in the biblical text. Because I've told this story before, that a Christian friend of mine wanted to lay hands on me and called me and said, "Spirits asked me to lay hands on you." And when I got there, she was praying in tongues, and I've never seen her like that. She was filled with energy. She put her hand on me, and I felt better immediately. We went in the living room, and her pet chicken jumped down and found a black snake. And this is an important story for what happened to me yesterday. I found a black snake on the floor down near the skirting board of the living room and killed it in front of us. Just killed it. And so we all pondered what came out of me and into that snake, perhaps. And so this is a vibrational war. Now let me show you some of the ways it can be. Sometimes your vibration can be very intact. It can be very, very good. But unfortunately, the lower vibration merely has humans that are so deeply entrenched in the wicked vibrations, can we call them, in the unhealed vibrations, in the sick vibrations, however we want to call them, that they can direct them to your path. And so Fritzi was coming back here with the boys, and I came a week before. A friend, a very dear friend, more like family, called Margaret, looks after the dogs when we're away and stays at this house where we are. And she had been here for the whole time we'd been away, and there'd been no problems. And the very day Fritzi returned with the boys, 2 men on a motorcycle pulled up outside our house and attacked Margaret. And so, I was about to leave the house, and I stopped and I said, I'm not going to leave. To myself, I said, I won't leave until they are laughing. Because this is the beginning of it, you see. This is a spiritual attack. You use someone who's unhealed and wounded, and they're stealing a phone for drugs or whatever else. And who knows why? I've got children who are like this, and I know that they are not bad children deep down. They're just caught up in the downward spiral of the neglect of life. And so, do you really think this spiritual warfare just wants your phone? Of course not. It wants the money from the phone so it can pound those human beings deeper into a lower vibration and have access to them for its perverse pleasures, no doubt. But for the persons that they attack, what do you think was occurring in the mind of my wife and Margaret that morning? Of course, fear enters. You all of a sudden, the first day you arrive back in Tanzania, which is not an easy place to live. It's not always an easy place to live as a European. The experiences Fritzi and I have gone through here are quite profound. Some quite frightening if you don't have the right mindset. And so, I stayed until I had them laughing. Because I told them, it's your mind. He wants your mind. He wants you today in this house to lower your vibration into fear and worry and the repetitive thought of fear and worry, because that'll expand as a vibration and that'll allow certain entities to come in and latch onto you and spoil the very early start of your return to Tanzania. And that will in turn affect me and affect the things that I've come here to sort out, because it's directly at my home. And so I stayed and I spoke to them until we got to the point where I said, look, who cares? They get a phone. It's unfortunate for them they're in that position, but we get a new phone from insurance, and you got a bit of a fright for a couple of minutes. It's like Satan loses, we win. We get a new phone. This is great. And I tried to place some material benefit on it, it can help, and eventually everyone was laughing. And off I went. You see, you have to lift up that vibration. But if I hadn't got everyone to laugh, then most likely it would have remained heavy and stewing and building up on everybody. And this is why you have to walk by faith. You must have faith and thanksgiving. Because when you doubt the power of unconditional love, that's when you open up for the power of unconditional love to not be present. That's where you create the disconnection from it. So this is one way. This low vibratory forces, they can use other human beings to come and to hurt you, to harm you. Now, the good thing about that, however, I wish to move from the sun. The good thing about this is that this means that the higher vibrational forces can use people to intercept on your behalf as well, to help you. And so, the vibration that you are determines your capacity, because I said this in a recent video about the vibrational spectrum of source, which goes up to here, and this other higher dimensional force which has some dominion in this world if we don't get up here. Meaning, if you're here and you don't get your vibration above there, you are at the beck, call, dominion, pleasure of the lower vibration. And when you get above there, it's powerless to you. Now, the reason this one is lower is it's consciously aware of the higher source, but it wants to be the higher source. And so it's made a decision to try and manipulate and control the fabric of the experience of life that we were gifted, to try and have its own God experience, as it were. And it would seem that the spiritual warfare that I'm speaking of, it's about generating an energy. It's about generating the friction between the good towards the dark, and the act of the friction generates a new type of energy. And of course, when you're here and you're trying to end suffering, which is persistently allowing for that vibrational state, so as certain entities can come in and take some pleasure from this, can take something from it, then this is putting us smack dab in the middle of a spiritual war. And if we don't realize it's vibrational, it puts us in a deeply vulnerable state. And so, when you get into the higher frequencies, when you get into the higher frequency within inside your column of white light, hello Sandra, this very high frequency dog just arrived with me, then you have dominion over the lower frequency energies and vibrations. When I was in Germany recently, I was with Fritzi, and I insisted we go somewhere with the boys, and on the way there, I'd been fasting and praying for like a week, so I hadn't interacted with anybody. And I mean solid prayer out in nature, so I was in a very high vibrational state, a very high frequency. As we were walking along, all of a sudden Fritzi appeared very pale to me, and I said to her, "You look so pale. Are you okay? Are you sick?" And she said no, and then this escalated and I kept saying it, and it almost became insulting. In fact, I would say I insulted Fritzi for being pale. And she wasn't pale, and I even began to question, why is this all of a sudden happening? Why does she look pale, and why am I insulting my wife? And so, hey, come on, you two. My dogs are... I've got a sick dog here who's been having chemotherapy and they're not getting along. Stop that. They're not getting along with each other. So. This is Winnie. She's been sick with chemo, and there's one laying down here, and they're having some tensions between them. Let's be in love, shall we? Yeah. So, I turn the corner, and for the first time in my life, I pass an albino gentleman in Germany. And this man looked sad. He looked dishevelled. He looked quite sad and broken. And that was the interpretation of the energy I was feeling too. And when I got past him, when I physically walked close to him, I became sad myself. And it stayed with me heavily. And I said to Fritzi, I have to leave you. And I left on my own, and I went to pray and to meditate. And eventually I cleared this energy from myself that I'd picked up. And I'm very confident that So I'm speaking about bad vibrations, guys. You can leave. No, you can leave and you can stay because you're sick. Yes. So I cleared this energy, and I'm very certain that because I was in a high vibrational state, I'd taken something off him that was troubling him. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've seen a species, and I have, and it's oppressing us. I have seen, now you can use any symbology and language you want. You can say demons, you can say Lucifer, Satan, you can say higher dimensional forces. But I have witnessed a type of being that are clearly of the same origin, but they all have individual features like humans do. And I'm not going to get into that heavily, but I've seen it, and I will get into it in time. But I got the sense that it was higher dimensional beings who are taking pleasure from the density of matter still, but don't want to exist in that density of matter. And so they come down and they influence us and feel through our human body the pleasures of the flesh. They feel the vibrations of those pleasures. And so I've witnessed this, and I know when they are on people, and I know when I remove them from people. And this is a part of my reality. And I know for a lot of people it's, but this is a part of my reality. This is my truth, this is my experience. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but these are the things I'm seeing and witnessing. And if you were to sit with me and you were carrying one of these, I could remove it, and you would be able to say, you've removed something, I feel totally different. Everybody who it happens to feels that way. But I myself have to be in that higher vibration, otherwise I can become subjected to their temptations and their desires and their suggestions, which many are, and they're just broken shells of former human beings, now just like an avatar, almost like a computer game for a higher dimensional force that wishes to play in this dimension but not live in it. And so dominion over that is found in the higher frequency. And yesterday, my little boy had a fever, Aquila. And I got a pressure in my throat, and all of a sudden I began to pray in tongues. I had no control over it, and I took him off on my own, and I was praying with him. And all of a sudden, I get an image of something like a dark purple energy lifting off his body in my mind's eye. And as I see that, he falls asleep. And the tongues stopped. And so I went to see Fritzy and I said, something just happened and I don't understand it. He said, oh, it's our boy, but maybe because he was in pain with the fever, maybe something attached to his vibration because he was in that lower vibration, the tension, you see. This is why I keep saying you have to be free of mind so you don't have tension, because when you have tension, things can attach to that. And so I go back into the room with my eldest son, and in the middle of the floor where he's sleeping, in the room where he's sleeping, he was on the bed, is a small black snake. And I've never seen a black snake in this house. In fact, the only other time I'd seen a small black snake was when my friend laid hands on me after she was praying in tongues and moving in the spirit as well. And so this happened yesterday. And so this is spiritual warfare. But it's a vibrational war. You have to understand that. Your vibration's deeply important. And the problem with our human species is we're so wrapped up in self-image, in the inner character, that the vibration is one of tension. And it's beneath the catchment of these oppressive forces that are in our world, instead of above with the higher dimensional forces of that which was labelled Christ, Source, unconditional love, however we want to term it. And you can't get up to those higher frequencies when you are burdened with the mental identity. Because all of the attacks start with the mind. They all start with the mind. The suggestion comes and the mind wanders to the idea, clings to the idea, and before you know it, the body's following that idea. Whatever your vice may be, whatever low vibrational waste of your energy, instead of it's sustaining and maintaining a high vibration of love and peace and contentment, you start to drag down into the world and feed into that lower vibration. Because now you're in such a low vibration, you don't feel good, so you grab at more things in the world to try and elevate yourself, and you just get lower and lower and caught in the trap. And so it's imperative that we see this, that the only weapon against us is temptation, and the only weakness is when we don't have control of our mind, when something is suggested, when something is planted, whispered, and the mind goes and follows it. That's where the fall comes. When the mind builds up a mental character and forgets the one that knit them together in their mother's womb, there comes the pride, and then comes the fall. So spiritual warfare is very real. And the greatest weapon you have is to stay in presence. Because in presence, when something comes to you that you know you should not be doing, because thoughts like that will come no matter who you are, you can witness them and you can choose, I'm not going to shelve that inside my system of autonomy and start moving towards it. I'm just going to ignore that, thank you. I will not attach to it. But those who are caught up in the franticness of thought, they might grab it and go, oh yeah, I'll take that cookie, I'll take that cookie, I'll take that one. Before they know it, they're playing out in that density. And the more you play in that density, the more your body becomes a prison to that. And you can't awaken like that. You cannot awaken like that, because your body, you might have a flash of awakening, but then your body screams at you, give me the television, give me the junk food, give me my... And you just, and you go and you follow the body, because you don't have the strength to get through the detox of it. And once you go there, you're entering again and manufacturing a generation within you of this lower vibration, and when you generate that lower vibration, the other lower vibrational entities can come to you. So we must raise our vibration. We do that by giving it all to Source and becoming all when we do that. Let go of the mental identity, let go of all of that, let go of your addictions, etc. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy life. You still enjoy a meal. You still make love with my wife when the energy spontaneously comes for that to happen. But what I am not doing is, as we do as young men, I'm bored, let me do this to try and satiate that. That's gone. Because that's just a trap, it's a prison, it's a loophole in the matrix. And you live in a higher vibration. And in that higher vibration, you have dominion over the lower. But God be with you if you fall, as I did. Because they are vengeful, and they hold a grudge, and they'll cripple you if they can. So, spiritual warfare and the oppression of mankind is an oppression of vibration. Take a look at what you're watching, take a look at what your kids are watching, take a look at what you're consuming. Take a look at the alcohol you're drinking, which dulls the delta frequency of your brain, where you reach the mind-free state, the eternal self. Take a look at all of these things. And remember that so long as you keep functioning in the law, this is no place to commune with angels, but it is a place to commune with the fallen ones. Long video, so I'll cut it there. I'll talk on this more, no doubt. God bless, guys. Bye. There'll be more emails and raised eyebrows about this one. You see a species oppressing us from a higher dimension? Yes. Yes, I do. This is my life. I love you all. Bye.